What's up, guys and girls? Welcome to episode 3 of Movies Are Terrible. I'm Jeremy, and if you happen to follow me over from Be Terrible Movies to check out the content over here, I really appreciate it. As you can tell, I'm not doing this for the views. I'm doing this to discuss movies, this thing that we love so much and I love to shit on. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing here today. If you have been checking out the past 2 episodes, you can see I'm kind of tweaking the format just a little bit, trying to find a comfortable balance between it being laid back and conversational, but still looking like a video and not just, webcam and crappy background and stuff. So I'd love to hear your contribution and your thoughts and suggestions about which direction to go as far as that goes. But if you happen to just find this YouTube channel, welcome. That surprises me because this is just such a small little corner, like a little blip on the radar of all of the content on YouTube. But while you're here, you might as well subscribe, right? What the hell? I got some fun stuff to talk about on this podcast. If you want to hear me talk about Hellboy, Spawn, or M. Night Shyamalan's Split and Unbreakable sequel Glass, then just check that out. I'll actually go ahead and link it down in the description so you can check it out at your leisurely whenever you want to. On this video, though, we're going to talk about the best horror films of 2017 so far as told by Haley Fouch over at Collider Movie Talk. We're going to talk about the ones that I've seen, maybe some of the ones that you've seen, what I'm anticipating the most and things like that. Mother, Darren Aronofsky's film. I don't know if you can classify that as a horror film or what, but it comes out tomorrow. I'm eagerly awaiting seeing that movie. I'm sure it's going to be all sorts of fucked up. But I just saw it last week, and if it has shown studios anything, it's that people love fucking scary clowns. This movie is the #1 grossing horror film in opening weekend of all time. It's outgrossed everything, and that is pretty incredible considering what it is. And if it really should show people anything, it's that with good storytelling and strong, compelling characters, people will like it. They'll go back and see it again. So let's hope that they learn the right lesson and not the wrong lesson. Because I went and saw Annabelle Creation a couple months ago, and it was also a pretty decent horror film, but the characters were fucking idiots. And even though the scares were done competently, it just wasn't good storytelling. It fell back onto so many of the tired cliches. So I'm very happy about the results of it and the way that it fared with audiences and critics alike. I did a huge review on it myself, and then I did a discussion with fellow writer of Movie Monsters, Andrea Burke, and you can check out a little snippet of that interview coming up on tomorrow's show. So let's go ahead and take a look at this list, though, and it actually starts off with It, directed by Andy Muschietti. The guy's by no means a household name. However, he did direct Mama, that movie that came out a couple years ago. And one of the forms that it takes in the movie will definitely remind you of Mama. That's so fucking stupid. Roll it back. Edit that out. It stars Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise this time around. Sophia Lillis plays Bev, and then also Finn Wolfhard, which fantastic name, Finn Wolfhard. Your parents rock. I guess they didn't give him the last name, but anyways, he's from Stranger Things, and he plays Eddie. No, can't remember which one he is. He's one of the kids in the movie It, and he is so good in it. He's just so funny. Every line he gives. That's the thing. These kids feel like real kids. And that's one of the best endorsements I can give about this movie. He plays Richie. Richie's the clown of the group. He's always talking about banging moms and stuff. But anyways, if you haven't seen It, you're missing out. If you're a horror fan and you're watching this video, you need to check out It because it was done very, very well. Did I tell you guys I talk about Hellboy on the other video also? Probably not the best time to throw that in there. Now that we're into the list. But yeah, there's a sequel coming out to It. Hope for the best as far as that goes, because this is a very, very good ensemble piece, and let's hope they can find the adult counterparts that can do the film justice, and that they'll still be able to bring back this cast, because man, they were good. My favorite part of the movie. Okay, A Dark Song, directed by Liam Gavin. I don't know what that is. Tale of Forgiveness, Hellish Magic Ritual, occultist, maddening spiritual journey, occult thrillers, one of the most original and unpredictable horror films in recent history. Well, that's a good endorsement. I'll have to give that one a watch. Have you heard of A Dark Song or seen it? That one wasn't even on my radar. A lot of these movies, even if I haven't seen of them, I've heard of them. And speaking of which, It Comes at Night. This is a very divisive movie that was released this year. Some people love it. A lot of critics love it. A lot of audiences hate it. A lot of people blame it on the marketing campaign, that it sold you one movie and it actually ended up being a very different movie. A similar case was The Witch. That was a movie that I felt probably did the same to audiences because I pay attention to this kind of shit. I knew what I was getting into ahead of time, but I could see people feeling like they were bait and switched if they wanted to go see Insidious 4 and they ended up getting The Witch, right? Some movies aren't meant for wide audiences, and I think It Comes at Night's one of those movies. It's about a family that's living in the secluded woods in this house, and they've blocked out the outside world because there's this virus that's infecting people and causing like death all over. Well, they invite another family into their house, and paranoia and mistrust ensues, and that's what the movie's about. Here it's very suspenseful, very dark movie. I also hear it's not a very fulfilling or gratifying experience, but hey, sometimes we all need a little bleakness in our lives. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna check it out. It kind of slipped past me this theatrical run, but I don't think it's one of those movies that you have to see on the big screen or something like that. It'll probably have just as much value in a home viewing. So I'm looking forward to that one. Next up, we got The Hounds of Love, or Hounds of Love. Another one I haven't heard of. Character drama, then horror, but undeniably horrific. Intimate spin on the serial killer subgenre that gets up close and personal with its monsters and its victims. With its monsters and the victim who just might tear them apart. Follows lovers and predators who kidnap, rape, and torture young women for pleasure. When Vicky falls into their trap, we get an insight into their twisted dynamic of the deadly couple at its most mundane and despicable. Young follows a wise restraint when it comes to the violence as the director, focusing instead on the build-up and the aftermath of the horrific deeds and how they shape the psychology of the three parties. That sounds interesting to me. It definitely sounds like some shocking exploitation horror movie, but that sounds like an interesting take on the genre. Like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer is another really good, disturbing horror film starring I'm Mary Poppins y'all himself. So that's one I'm going to be checking out. I expect to see a review for that one sometime. And then this is another one that I've heard about that I'm excited about, but I haven't seen. It's called The Transfiguration. It's directed by Michael O'Shea. It sounds a little like the vampire film Martin. This is the story of a young black kid who is getting bullied by the gangsters in the neighborhood, and he's a sympathetic character, but once a month he goes out and finds somebody to murder and drink their blood. It never really clearly says whether or not this guy is a vampire. It just says that it shows what he does without really putting a definitive, like, this is a vampire. But it is a take on the vampire tale, and it sounds extremely fascinating. Martin is so shocking and so disturbing, but at the same time just endlessly compelling. That's one of George Romero's best films, the late, great George Romero. So check that out as a companion piece for the Transfiguration, and let me know what you think about it. It's not going to be for everybody, I'll tell you that much right now. Next, we have Split, which I talked a good bit about in the other podcast that I just now did. This is an M. Night Shyamalan. Is it Shyamalan? Yeah, okay. A Shyamalan movie that stars James McAvoy and Anya Taylor-Joy. It is a very dark, visceral, psychological thriller with horror elements that ends up being a supervillain origin story. Who knew? But man, just the performance that McAvoy gives is extremely committed, and it sells the whole project. If he wouldn't have done good, the whole thing could have easily fallen apart. But he makes you believe in this affliction, and the way that the whole movie plays out is just very tense and suspenseful, and it was a really fun ride. It was another one of the kind of sleeper hits of the year. The Girl with All the Gifts is another spin on the zombie genre, which we've seen it and seen it and seen it time and time again. But this is one of those kind of revisionist takes on it that makes it interesting. It is after a zombie outbreak or a virus outbreak, and there are, it's based on a YA novel, and there is a post-apocalyptic dystopia where the world has been ravaged by mold-covered zombies called hungries. Well, there's a more dangerous threat, and they are children that have this latent disease inside of them. They look and act like normal kids, only when they are exposed to blood, they go ravenous and crazy. There's one girl, though, a student of Gemma Atherton, who's a teacher, that is showing the ability to control herself and not act on her impulses. And she's going to be the cure, kind of similar to the Children of Men movie. And really interested in it. Haven't seen it, heard quite a bit of good things about it. And it's another one I plan on giving a watch. Let me know what you think about that one. I'm always sick of zombie movies until I see that one that is like, oh yeah, these are badass. Get Out, directed by Jordan Peele. Another massively successful sleeper hit that came out this year. It's definitely a genre bender. It's not just a straight up horror movie. It's definitely got psychological horror and psychological thriller elements to it. But it's a really good take on a genre bending film. It shows Jordan Peele has a real knowledge and reverence for the medium that he's working in. And it also established him as something more than just a comedian, you know? I just cannot wait to see what he comes out with next, because this movie was so well done. And it's fun. It's interesting. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before. What did you think about Get Out? And this, I'm surprised this one made the list, I gotta be honest. It's a beautiful looking movie, but we're talking about Alien Covenant. I've got reviews for it up. I've talked about it ad nauseum to anybody who will listen. It was a beautiful movie. I really respect the sound stages and the sets that were constructed to film in, and the fact that they don't over-rely on CGI. Thank God, because the CGI in this movie looks fucking terrible. But it's one of those movies that asks more questions than it answers, and it doesn't seem really well thought out in a lot of ways. Michael Fassbender's performance is stellar, but unfortunately, you just don't give a shit about any of the people in the movie. The effects were cool looking, the ship was cool looking, the death scenes were cool. It was a bunch of cool looking stuff without a lot of substance, unfortunately. And after Prometheus, I wanted something to hold on to. I liked Prometheus, but it had a lot of the same problems. Big ideas, no real answers to any of the questions. The Black Coat's Daughter is directed by Oz Perkins, who did I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which was a Netflix original horror film. This has been sitting on the shelf for a couple years and is actually his directorial debut, but because of whatever happens in movies, they shelved it, and it's just not coming out, and he's already had other movies released in the meantime. I liked I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. It's very slow and very atmospheric, and it put me to sleep the first time I watched it. I had to kind of commit to it and surpass the boredom and just lock myself into it. And it pays off, you know. By the end of the movie, I was like, wow, it's really cool. It's something different from your traditional storytelling. And it feels more experimental, which is interesting. If you have Netflix, you can give that one a watch anytime. The next one is Devil's Candy, which me and Kevin did a horrible horror movie review for. And it stars Ethan Embry. It's so cool. It's like a heavy metal fucking artist who moves into a house with his family and starts hearing these demonic voices that compel him to paint these just really creepy paintings at the house. And then the previous owner of the house is kind of coming back into the picture and might have his sights set on the daughter. It's a really interesting story. It's a very low budget film, and I really like the way that they utilize music and atmosphere and a fantastic performance by Ethan Embry to bring a horror film unlike a lot of what we see. While there are familiar elements, and it does kind of ape things from previous eras, I think that it was arranged in a way that made it a fun watch and one that I would highly recommend. Is that it? No, one more. Oh man, I've been meaning to see this movie for a while now. It's called The Void, and it's directed by Jeremy Gillespie and Steven Kostanski. No actors or actresses that I know of, but it's supposedly an ambitious horror film that it's Technicolor special effect. They used to be special effects artists. It looks like a very late 70s, 80s era fever dream. You know, it's got a lot of those neon colors or Technicolor, and they say that it it's a love letter to John Carpenter, Clive Barker, H.P. Lovecraft, and Lucio Fulci, among others. Come on, freaking soul, dude. I know that a lot of people would say there's a fine line between homaging or homaging and stealing, but I really do get a lot of joy out of seeing movies that feel like movies that I would have seen as a kid. And when you go down that list of directors, it's just very exciting about the possibilities of it. I saw Beyond the Gate, expecting it to be one of these movies. It was just very slight. It wasn't bad, and there were definitely elements I liked about it, but I got it confused with The Void. I want to check The Void out. I'm curious if you've seen it. Let me know what you think about it without getting into spoilers. I'm going to check it out as soon as possible and post a review for it. That seems to be the end of the list. No, wait, one more. Raw. Cannibal movie. It was premiered at TIFF last year. People were supposedly fainting in the audience, but it's a coming-of-age cannibal film where a girl in med school is hazed in some bizarre ritual where they make her eat some animal part or something, and then she starts craving raw meat, and that's all I know about it. Cannibalism, y'all. Sounds fun. I've seen a couple of cannibal movies, and usually pretty fucking gross, but I hear this one's more than that. It'll really make you think. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a list of movies that I've only seen like half of. So now I've got some homework to do, and hopefully I have suggested a couple that maybe you can check out. Maybe we can discuss them after you do. Stay tuned for more episodes of Movies Are Terrible. Also, if you enjoyed this and you want to stay up to date with all of the content, all you got to do is subscribe. Click that little like button down there to let me know that you stopped by. I'm Jeremy. Be terrible.